And that's the bottom line. You want a war? You're going to get one.
The cream will rise to the top, oh yeah.
Now you want to get nuts? Come on, let's get nuts.
Hard work pays off. Dreams come true. Bad times don't last, but bad guys do.
We are back again.
Ladies and gentlemen, another Wednesday of the Bottom Line. Like clockwork, baby, isn't it? Isn't the Bottom Line like clockwork?
It's the only show that you can depend on week in and week out, right?
It's like apple
31,
pie, baby.
31
It's gonna
straight
be there.
episodes since July.
We're not missing a beat, baby, and here we are. Now, most people would call this, a dead time, right? This is a dead time, right? NFL's over.
I can start naming off the podcasts that are taking some time off right now, but
NFL's over. College is over. We got some off-season stuff, I guess, but UFL is about 5 weeks away yet. But here we are. Here we are. We got to talk something. So we got some stuff to talk about tonight. Believe it or not.
so
Some
we
interesting
decided we need a little help tonight. So
that doesn't hurt either.
that's right. We brought in one of the heavy hitters of the UFL podcast, and when we were trying to figure out who could we bring on that's got some teeth, who's got some substance, we look no farther than PFN, right?
That's right. I mean, if those, I know our guest tonight knows way more than I do. So, I mean, not that it takes much, but he knows way more than I do. So I'm a fan, and I get into it, but he knows way more than I do.
So we'll bring him on as soon as we get Brett to show up here. Last week he was caught in that torrential rainstorm in his double wide deer stand that he reported
like this.
from.
I'm reporting live. The wind's really blowing out here. No kidding.
Till like 10 after 8, quarter after 8, when he finally ran around the block and got back into the deer stand.
Sitting in his deer stand. I don't think the heavy stuff's going to come down for a while yet. We're okay, boys. I don't know what they pay those guys to stand out there in a hurricane, but Jesus. You can put the camera out the window and go, yeah, it's really blowing out there. You don't have to stand.
Is it really that important to be knee deep in the ocean to tell everybody there's a hurricane coming in?
Yeah, the ocean's really up. The ocean's up. Yeah, okay. Why don't you go back inside with the rest of us?
But we're into season number 2 when Brett promised to have his in-house office and we've yet to see it. So
yeah, we got to go from the deer stand to the in-house. We'll see. We got some pressure on him now.
So let's go ahead and look
Hey,
at
there,
that.
oh,
The
there he
timing
is.
is impeccable.
Man,
The timing is impeccable. Let's go ahead and up the thumbs up. So let's bring on Brett, and let's bring on our guest co-host for the evening. Let's bring on Zach Kielman with PFN. How you doing, Zach?
Oh, glad to be here, gentlemen. It's good times as always to talk about some UFL football. And Eric, I was hearing you in the backstage, man. Don't knock yourself down. You guys know what you're talking.
well,
I'm just saying, let's raise all the ships, you know.
Right. Here's the deal, Zach. This is what I talk about when I talk about knowledge. So I am a Battlehawk fan, but I am a UFL fan. Like I watch all the games,
Nice.
and you know I got my Showboats flag, just got my Arlington Renegades flag. You know, I've all, and Ed's the same way. But you know, we'll sit here and Brett and Ed and I'll talk backstage or whatever, and Brett will be like, "Oh, yeah, I saw Birmingham or I saw DC sign an offensive tackle today." So and Brett's like, "Oh yeah, this is so and so. He played at Mississippi State. Hell of a kid." Blah blah blah. He just rips it off like, "Oh, he's like 6'5".
Nice.
Yeah, his brother was a
310 pounds.
professional soccer player, and
Yeah.
his uncle was an all-star wrestler.
Yeah.
And
His mom holds a scoring record at Alabama. You know, at basketball. I mean, I'm just like, dude, like that's another level for me.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, and so when I talk levels, there's your casual fan, then probably like Ed and I, and then you know you, Brett, all you like you guys are up here. I mean, it's like I don't have enough hours in the day to keep track of all that stuff.
I don't either.
But you do.
Get into it, Brett. Let's get into it. We're gonna let me bring up topic number one, and you guys can run with it to begin with. But there's been a lot of talk going on out there, and it seems like the closer and closer we get to the season, there's more. The pool's kind of being dwindled a little bit for expansion talk. So let's have a little round here of what's the latest and greatest. Take it away.
Interesting. Yeah. Well,
What do you
look,
think, Zach? So what do you think, Zach? Like
Well,
if you had a list, you know?
well, yeah,
give us your
I think
list.
this talk has been all over the place now, and I think we remember later last year, league comes out. Now we're looking at markets. You know, it's official. This isn't some taboo subject. This is reality. Things are out and about. You know, so like instantly my brain goes to the Seattles of the world. You know, a lot of people love San Diego or like the old markets from the AAF. You know, we talk about that. People talk about, hey, can we get back to like Orlando and rebrand? You know, maybe we can find, and it's a little lesser, but like I always have a small soft spot to get back out to New York, like New Jersey. You got two brands that can get back out that way that both leagues own, but that's hard to say. And so, you know, as you pop up on the screen, I think a lot of the momentum as we keep on hearing or saying is Seattle just seems almost like a lock. It's just what else is around there with Seattle, because I think a lot of the conversation around it is, you know, we talk about this West Coast kind of like no man's land, but can we get people out there to justify the market? I think that's the case. I'm fascinated to see what they do to reinvigorate that market again, if and when they do go out, which I mean, feels like there's a lot of rumblings going about that market is near lock, and the fact that they supposedly have, you know, venue locked in too, or that from, you know, they still have a year they can kind of wiggle room with it. You know, I feel like that one, everyone's almost in agreement. Just go there, find your second place if you're going to do 2 or 3 or 4, how many you ever want next year or so, because that's the only one I think most people agree on at this point.
I think
Yeah.
Portland, you know, if you talk about Seattle and you talk about creating a natural rivalry, you know, because the travel, I mean, you know, we've talked about expansion. We've talked about, you know, how travel might look and things like that. But we had Arlington Renegades offensive coordinator Chuck Long on about 3 weeks ago. And he said, listen, other than Arlington, every game's a road game. So
Yeah.
whether they expand to Seattle and go to New York, it really kind of is irrelevant for the league. But I would like to see them. I would like to see them kind of create some of those regional, you know, rivalries and things like that if they could. I'm not saying they will, but I think, Portland and Seattle, I think would be a good mesh there.
Mm-hmm.
Just a thought there.
Yeah. From sources I talked to this week, all the rumors are correct. Seattle, unless the sky falls, will be back in full effect at Lumen Field in 2026, which is very exciting. But I've also heard that there's 2 other cities they're looking at for 2026. We know that they were talking about 2 teams and added in 2026 and 2 in 2027. This is one that really surprised me, but supposedly it is a finalist. Raleigh, Durham, and the Cary area, all that area is very, very, very heavily populated. This is the only venue in that area that they would be playing in. It's a 57,000 seat stadium. NC State Wolfpack, of course, plays there. It's on their campus. They would not bump heads with any other events in that stadium. The stadium size is a little concerning. Of course, there's 2 upper decks there, so you've probably got around 38,000 in the lower bowl. But believe it or not, Raleigh-Durham, North Carolina is a finalist for 2026.
That market, you and I, you guys, much like us, we do pre-show, and I still am going to go say what I said there. I just feel like that one, to me, fascinating. It is, like a mid-major choice. It feels like they're trying to say, what can we pick that's good metro size, but it doesn't get like overwhelmed by professional sports where we have to fight and kind of claw tooth and nail marketing wise and ticketing wise to get people to sit down, and that's not always saying it's hit or miss, but it generally is more of a hit with that. If you're talking about tickets first, or if you're looking at like TV data for like maybe smaller markets that don't have bigger city names on it. I don't remember Raleigh, Durham, that like TV market. There's like 3 in that one that I remember. I worked in television, and I don't know if it was up there as high, but I remember it was. I remember, the fact that it at least, it's good college football following. You show NC State, people kind of seem to forget that is kind of the basis out there. That's a pretty decent football crowd, even though it's not as good of a program. So, I get some of the aspects, I guess. I'll be fascinated to see how they approach that market, though. It's not terribly close to Charlotte. We talked about that in the pre-show as well. It's 2.5 hours, give or take, traffic. So, you're not pulling too much from a major metro like that, but still a lot of people there.
Right. That was one that that really, really surprised me. All the rumors and all of us, quote unquote, super fans or whatever that communicate behind the scenes, that was not one that I heard. But from what I gather now, it is a serious contender for 2026, along with Seattle, which basically what they had mentioned in Seattle is, look, they've got this, and going for it, and we know immediately it will be the 2nd largest fan base behind St. Louis.
Mm-hmm.
And they see, they watch the social media stuff. They see all the people talking about Seattle.
And you've got a college right there. If you can get the college kids on board, I mean, I don't know how many kids go to NC State, but I mean, if you can somehow get the college kids on board, you might be able to really, pick up on what the league is looking for this year, and that is attendance in the seats. So, I mean, that might be a positive too, and that may be why they're looking there. I don't know.
I think their enrollment's around 30,000 last time I checked, maybe 28,000. You get 4, 5, 6, 7,000 students coming to every game. I don't know if that's high or if that's a possibility, but I mean, I think they would be happy with 15 to 20,000 in the stands, and you would, like you said, with the students, you would be, and it's a newer stadium too. This is totally different than where the Roughnecks played last season. That was a mess, and we kind of knew it was going to be. I think their attendance will go up immediately going back to TDECU Stadium. But let's pull up the other option that I've been told is on the table.
Okay. Yeah. That one I dig too. And this one, I think, is a bit more on the nose. So Columbus, Ohio is, in terms of if you're looking at like straight up just data like with television or broadcast, that one I feel like has been the case. Columbus, Ohio is one of the most viewed local markets in terms of like the UFL, in terms of like and also the USFL or XFL we've seen over the years. Ohio's history of football. We talk about Columbus, Ohio, of course, being the college town, but I mean, the state alone has a ton of football interest everywhere and anywhere else. And I think that this would be a slam dunk choice, especially if it's the lower.com bowl right there, where you're going to the MLS stadium. You know, you focus in on a crowd that gets high energy and gets kind of that, you know, really more, I think, connected feel like the MLS and soccer games get. You know, I think we really could have a DC experience on our hands in that venue.
Right.
I like this one a lot. Like, the Raleigh one, I think that they would have some hurdles, but I feel it could still work. This one I feel like would be a slam dunk. Yes, pick it, go into the middle. I love one of you guys to express too, because I'm the Michigan fan, but you know, it kind of seems to connect the dots. You know, Ann Arbor's near Detroit, Columbus is near, you know, Ohio State's the city that Ohio State's in, for God's sake. You have an easy thing you can pull from to market yourself.
Right.
If you go in the right conference, you know.
And it's 20,000 capacity at that stadium, which is absolutely perfect.
Well, and then you look at, you know, the natural rivalry between Ohio State and Michigan. You know, does that Columbus Michigan combo look appealing? I mean, when you slice the United States right down the middle, when you start moving ownership in and you start getting rid of the hubs and you reach that point where you start bringing in ownership, to me, the more teams you have on the eastern United States, the more you make it palatable to travel. You know, and when you talk about putting every fan base, every city on its own to create butts in the seats, the more drivable locations that you can get where the visiting team, like this summer, I mean, this spring when St. Louis Battlehawks play in Memphis, I can tell you already there is a lot of interest in St. Louis for traveling to that game. And they've already opened blocks of seats in Memphis in Liberty Field for the Battlehawks that have interest in making that trip. So to me, the more locations that you can come up with that are drivable between locations, you're just creating those rivalries even faster.
Yeah, I love that move with Memphis, by the way. And I think that was actually something I talked with a lot of folks over with the kind of the boatmen and all that over there. Bill Alexander, I got to give a shout out to him. He's done a ton of great work trying to build that fan base up out there with the season ticket holders. And, you know, they've talked that same thing too, where it's like, hey, you know, it's not that far to get to these two cities. You know, wouldn't be bad. You have one game a year, you know, for kind of a connected out of conference game, you know, and those are things that they can capitalize on. Again, if you're going to focus on most of your markets being in TV centric areas of the country, which is east of the Mississippi, you know, if you have a chance to, doesn't hurt to start pushing like, hey, you know, here's where we can do like a special rate for tickets or getting someone out there. You know, the Panthers I saw last year tried to kind of do that going out to San Antonio, and that's one that felt like very disconnected. I didn't understand the choice there because you're not going to find many people from that area going to Texas on the whim. So the more you can get stuff where it's like, hey, want to go down to Columbus and also take your, you know, Wolverines pride down there and just make it a double whammy. Why not? You know, that's something you could do. Columbus, it's the exact same way back. You can laugh in their faces if you go up to, you know, Detroit near Ann Arbor way and have a good time up there at Ford Field, which again, great venue to go watch a game. So not bad. And I like Michigan Panther Pride here. Great show. You know, if you expand, do you keep the conferences or you rename this stuff? Because I think now we're starting to get in that point where, you know, do we stay with the original stuff or do we just focus on UFL and UFL only? You know, once you get into that expansion talk and you get into possibly what sounds like new brands that have no connection to anything from the past.
Right.
So that brings me into my next topic then.
Great segue.
Is it time to get rid of the XFL, USFL? I mean, when you look on Facebook and, face it, we all are involved with social media because it's just part of what we do. You sure see a lot of banter between the XFL and the USFL yet. And I think the original thought of the rivalry and the two conferences made sense. But I'm wondering at some point if it becomes adverse to the progression of the UFL, because it seems like you can see so many fans that are locked into the USFL way or locked into the XFL way. Is it time to get rid of both those conferences and just become one league?
Heard a lot of animosity last year, midway through the year, and there was rumblings from actual people within the league that saw that it was causing some issues with fan bases. The whole XFL, USFL, and I whine and complain about all the tribal nonsense that the XFL's so much better than USFL. No, the USFL. Look, I said from day one they were very, very comparable. And we saw that on the field last year. I think XFL won one more game. USFL team won the championship. They're very comparable. They did things different, but the football was very, very quality and very comparable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that if anything, it accomplished the mission of saying, hey, this is a merger of all of the top pro leagues and you get top talent, and that you can have that exist across different levels. It just comes down to circumstance and whatnot. But, moving past it, year one was about, hey, we're bringing the best of the best together. Now, moving forward, it's about let's make the best and longest lasting football product to kind of fill that need for folks, or, continue growing football as a whole. The NFL, I don't mean to throw the NFL in this, but the NFL would love if the USFL keeps growing, not only for development, but also they want football to grow worldwide and even be more entrenched the farther you get as a year-round product. So it doesn't hurt to have a second league that also is buddy-buddy with the NFL that goes, hey, yeah, we help push forward the sport and we even grow the sport as well with it. I mean, the UFL is even doing international events starting next year. They've already announced. So, that only helps. I think it wouldn't hurt to move past that. The history, obviously, you want to hold on to. I mean, I'm glad, like, for example, the Panthers, they're using the 83 season in their marketing already. Thank you. That's genius. You should lean into that old stuff. People still have memories of those old teams if you have
Bobby Hebert.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, dude, I will take any time that they can bring and celebrate that team in, because those were great athletes of the day. Anthony Carter as well has many people's minds from that time. So yeah, and it wouldn't hurt if they did it. I do say, though, if you do that, though, don't shy away from doing like a one-off game from interconference, like the Memphis and St. Louis game. Make it a special event. I almost was debating in my head, do we just make all the Texas teams into one conference? And I kind of shy away from that only because the Texas throwdown between Arlington and Houston that started in 2020, I do kind of like that as a one-off, that Dallas-Houston rivalry. So, it is complicated. You could maybe work that, but don't go too far with some things. Maybe see what maybe works best with maybe some outliers. I know the conferences kind of go like wide west to east in a way, with Texas being the outlier, but, wouldn't hurt to maybe rename, but look for some great one-off games while also retaining good rivalries that are in conference that you have currently. It's a hard balance, but I think it's very accomplishable to do.
Well, and if you think about, and Ed mentioned it, Memphis and St. Louis. If you're looking at putting butts in the seat, it makes more sense to have Memphis and St. Louis playing a home away every year.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can't do that necessarily, because now if Seattle's a guarantee, and there's not going to be a Portland, there's not going to be somebody that's out there with them.
Someone brought New Orleans as well to the table too, and but if you're going to have some of those teams in close proximity, and again, butts in the seats is the next goal, the next step. Keeping the XFL, USFL conferences, for
for the foreseeable future may not be something that the league needs to do or should do.
You
Yeah.
know, just
Wait
as
another
far-
year or two and try to build the UFL brand before you ditch the XFL and USFL brand, because it means a lot to some of these tribal folks. You know, I mean,
I know in the XFL, when you look back, you know, St. Louis Battlehawks and the DC Defenders had quite the rivalry to begin with. You know, last year there was the argument made that San Antonio and St. Louis become a big rivalry. We ended up playing 3 times last year. But then, you know, last year, San Antonio and Arlington started a big time I-35 rivalry. So it's almost like in the short amount of time that the UFL / SXF, XFL, USFL has been in existence, there's several rivalries that have been created already within the league. I guess that's part of being so small, but I would hate to see a redistribution or recalculation of divisions and have some of those go away because you've built so much fan base interaction already. But Seattle, there was an argument to be made for Seattle and St. Louis. So, I mean, yeah. And I look for Memphis and St. Louis to reach that point rather quickly too after this year. So
let me touch on this something that Zach just mentioned, because I know he's fixing to have to drop off. You mentioned New Orleans, Zach.
Mm-hmm.
That was the other city that the folks that I spoke to this week mentioned. The Fox side and the USFL side is hot and heavy on bringing the Breakers back to New Orleans. That's the thing. They were close on a lease. USFL was before the merger. The issue, from what I've been told, is Tulane Stadium's a new stadium. They've already reached out numerous times, and it's not going to work there. They want too much money, from what I'm told. They're scared about the Superdome because it's so large. So I know they are very hot and heavy on New Orleans, but there's a venue issue there. So that's why New Orleans wasn't one of the cities we mentioned tonight.
Now the other thing I had been remembering myself when that process was going on, because they were very close. Because they also were working on a USL new stadium venue down there too, that they were looking and investigating to see if that could have capacity. My guess, since that's dried up, is maybe not so much, because you can't go too small either. I think the XFL learned that very well with Cashman. You need to have something that is a good balance. You know, it can't be, you can't always go big and go home. It doesn't always work. Although, you know, you put the right efforts in, you can get bigger venues to work, but you also can't go too small, because it will also backfire on you as well with some PR. So, you know, I think like you see like MLS stadiums are like the perfect small size scale, because they have all the modern amenity, but they also have the capacity that still looks great on television. You know, there's no cheapness looking to it as well. And quite frankly, I think part of the reason they're sticking with Memphis, not only the fan base has a great glow, but keep in mind, they get to play in a renovated new venue within the next year or so. So, you know, it's kind of hard to push away from that fan base when, you know, you realize you merged and you're also getting a new venue on top of this thing. The city wants you, like, you know, a lot of times when I talk with stuff, and Brett, you and I have talked about this week because of some discussions about Birmingham has always seemed to pop up around this time. And, you know, it's not always as simple as tell people to get in seats, and it's the fans that are responsible to get into these seats.
Right.
A business has to do its job correctly. You got to tell the business itself to get out and about. Clearly, the business, aka the UFL, we've seen is learning that lesson. That's why you see local marketing initiatives in Memphis and Michigan this year, and more pressing ones that are going into markets, because they realize, yes, you know, we have to balance, and we do have some costs to have, but some necessary stuff, local people, to a degree, need to be there. And I think with the ones that need to have more tickets to start churning up, they're doing that. So, you know, I just want, my message is it's a very not one topic issue. It's very complicated, ticketing and marketing, but there are ways to address problems like this.
Don't you think, Zach, that, you know, in an effort, and I know last year being year number 1 for the UFL and so on and so forth, they were trying to get butts and seats at different times.
Yeah.
Do you think that maybe some of that struggle was they kind of, I don't know, call it pushing the panic button or whatever it was, and they kind of did some things, and then this year guys are kind of sitting back going, I'm not buying season tickets. I mean, I'll go to every game, but I'm not going to buy season tickets. I mean, do you think maybe that plays a little bit into it? I mean, I'm not saying they were, yeah, 2020 hindsight, maybe a mistake, but I mean, realistically, it's a league just trying to find itself. I mean, do you think maybe some of that's at play when they say, well, season ticket sales are down?
Well, I think one thing that also plays into this, and I've had some thought about this week, and Brett and Ed and I have talked about this a little bit as well this week. You have a business that has to meet and hit certain benchmarks and such, which provides and creates certain things such as rising ticket prices or, adjusting how you do certain deals and certain packages. At the same time, though, you have to be careful with that, because what happens is if you're increasing a price, I'm going through this, not say directly, but like say right now, the discussion online today was Chicago Bears. They're raising the prices 10% on season 10%, tickets, which is in the NFL world, that's a lot. The Bears tickets are pretty damn expensive and people wait a long time for these things. Now with that, you raise the price. What are you adding on incentive wise to keep someone coming in? Because here's where I think we see this with the UFL fan bases is, yes, if you look at the USFL prices and even more trackable, they've jumped. Like they have definitely been exponentially crawling up there. And I imagine now with the UFL, they kind of have to jump it all across the board a little because they're trying to make some of it back and they're trying to make this a profitable business. That being said, though, are you keeping amenities and certain things you're rewarding fans the same or increasing that with that value? And I will say, I've heard some mixed results on that. And I think that's something that they need to and have been looking to address. I know last year, Michigan, I heard some things were kind of moved away from that maybe weren't as helpful for them, maybe cost-wise. And I think that maybe they're trying to course correct that. We talk about that as well. And I think you're right. The value to the ticket holder cannot be understated. And especially if they want it to be where we're addressing not only getting ticket revenue in as a profit turner, but also as a eyeball catcher on TV. You got to work with fans a little bit. And I think that, they're trying, but they also are being kind of pulled in a direction. Well, we also need to start doing these things to keep, our business entities at bay. And, it's difficult. But fans are always going to be caught in the middle of that, but it's up to the business to keep them wanting to come back. So yeah, tough call with that.
Yeah.
We were talking before the show too about California teams, and I seen the comment line. There's some interest about bringing in a California team. You guys want to go into a little bit of what seems to be the issue with California teams?
I'll dip off here, but gentlemen, you have a good one. Maybe I'll circle around to a thought on California next time. But hopefully be back sooner rather than later. I know. Looking forward to some stops as the season goes on to say hi to you guys.
Well,
we know
thanks
you're
a lot
busy,
for joining, Zach. And why don't you if you want to take a minute here and tell us where we can all find you at?
Abso-frickin-lutely. Well, at Zach Kyleman, you see that username right there in the corner on my screen. But guys, go check out the UFL podcast and Around the UFL, part of the Pro Football Newsroom network of shows. Great stuff. Right now, UFL podcast should have one out later this week. Going to probably be targeting releasing on Thursday nights, moving into the season with the Friday games this year on a more regular basis soon. And then Around the UFL, ATU as we call it, Monday nights, 6 o'clock Eastern, 5 o'clock Central. Join me, the ref, and a bunch of our great PFN staff and crew. We discuss roundtable wise, kind of like this actually, live too. And we might have some special guests on from time to time. So stay tuned to that. But that's going to be Mondays going forward, 6 o'clock Eastern time on the UFL podcast YouTube channel. So thank you, gentlemen. Have a good one. I'll catch you very soon
Zach.
for another episode.
Thanks.
Thank you, man.
Zach, for joining.
Hey, no problem.
Have
See
a
ya.
good night, bud.
Well,
the problem with California, like we had mentioned, their laws and rules and the workman's comp structure, unfortunately, guys, it's a problem. The leagues, until that gets fixed, cheapened, however you want to word it, it's going to be an issue going back to California. It was an issue for XFL 3.0. There's a reason for it. It's a lot of those crazy laws in California. So stay tuned. Maybe that can get corrected in the near future.
So before we get into the next subject, when we come back, let's take a break. When we come back, let's talk a little bit about what effect we think the World Cup is going to have on our league next spring. But let's, courtesy of the UFL, let's take a break and we'll come back and talk about the World Cup.
The best of the best is coming together. There's no more what ifs. We're all one league now.
Ready to shut it off. I'm number one in the building.
There's no more talk. Put up or shut up. We'll see who the top dogs is now.
Strap it up and line it up.
Joining forces means more power.
Delirium in DC.
More potential. More reach.
Unbelievable.
Look for a chance to play ball, man. A chance to show that you still got it.
The hunger is unreal.
Helmet goes on. Nothing else in the world matters.
Tell them I'm ready. Whenever they want this, I'm ready.
A league that pushes the envelope and opens the door to living the dream.
I've been an underdog my whole career.
Football is kind of my last resort. If I could just get this one little break.
Brace the moment, man. This is as fun as it gets right here.
United, they stand to stake a claim to springtime for America's favorite game. Are you ready?
Yep, I'm ready.
You know we ready. Yes, sir. Ready to run it back.
Hell yeah, I'm ready.
For a new era.
Let's go.
New challenges.
Best in the nation.
A new beginning.
The time is now.
Line it up, Playboy. Let's do it.
I can't wait to see you guys play.
Are you ready?
This is the United Football League.
Just don't blink.
This is more than a game. It's passion that fuels us. The action.
My goodness.
The excitement. The pride.
To the end zone. Touchdown.
Where stars emerge.
He got smoked.
Where legacies begin.
You're feeling awfully confident right now.
Where the future of football is taken to new heights.
Touchdown. Bam. He got whacked.
Get ready.
Just bad intentions. Wow.
For more football this spring.
Playing with some swagger.
A new UFL season kicks off on March 28th.
Well, again, we want to thank Zach Keelman from PFN for coming on our show tonight. A lot of good insight into expansion talk. But the next thing I want to bring up is it always seems every year that there's a groundswell of when's the right time to start the season, right after the Super Bowl or waiting till the end of March. Well, we found out in 2026, we have an event coming to the United States, the World Cup Soccer. And if I remember right, word has it that that's going to start somewhere around mid-June. Does that sound about right?
I think
Yes.
so.
June 11th, multiple cities across the country. I'm not a soccer fan, but I'm a U.S. soccer fan. I do follow the USA team. They're very young and talented. From my sources this week, I've been told that it's a problem. It's going to be a problem. The league's aware of it, and they're planning ahead. So look for the league to start a couple weeks sooner next year. 2 weeks at least, from what I gather. But that's not set in stone, but they are obviously, because I think Fox might be carrying a lot of those World Cup games. I know ESPN does. So they're going to try to avoid that at all costs. I know Dallas has a venue there. I'm not sure they're using Choctaw Stadium or Jerry's World, but they are playing in Dallas, Cincinnati, I think St. Louis. They're playing all over the country in that huge worldwide tournament. It only happens every 4 years. And keep in mind, football is America's game, but soccer is the world's game. So they will avoid that. So looks like maybe mid-March next year we'll start.
I know that they have to have heard multiple platforms, multiple social media outlets, whatever it is. To me, next year would be the perfect trial run to move it as close to the Super Bowl as possible to see if that changes anything. You know what? If it doesn't, then we were all wrong. We gave it a run, fine. But if we get to the third year, that means things are ticking up. They're moving farther and farther ahead. Let's take that opportunity to back it up and see what we can get out of it. And maybe they hit a home run with it. Maybe it's no different, whatever the case may be. At least we have an opportunity to see if what we all think could happen might actually happen. Super Bowl's played, 2 weeks later, boom, UFL's being played. I mean, you're not talking about players that couldn't be in shape. You know, I mean, some that are coming from the NFL practice squads, whatever. I mean, if they get whatever it might be, let's find out if this would absolutely work. And then if it doesn't, hey, we all sit back and go, man, we were wrong about that. That was dumb. Or if it really works, we can say, give us a call because we know what we're talking about. You know, see what I'm saying?
Well,
you guys know I've screamed for it for 3 years now.
Right.
Well, and the thing is, too, scheduling is going to be huge because I will tell you that in St. Louis with the Battlehawks and the Cardinals and the soccer team, they have to have their finger on the schedules because, you know, Brett, I know you say that the United States is a football country but soccer is got a groundswell that just continues to grow and grow because I can tell you when St. Louis started with soccer a couple of years ago and built their stadium, I don't think there's a game that they play that's not sold out. So they do not. I know that those soccer games, I think they hold probably 28,000 if I remember right. And they're sold out every game. So there's times when they're playing at the same time the Battlehawks are playing, at the same time the Cardinals are playing. And even last year, there was a time they had a concert going. We had over 100,000 fans. We had 100,000 over in downtown St. Louis going to all of this stuff at the same time.
It was opening weekend. Don't you remember? We were talking about it at the tailgate. We got soccer this weekend. We got Battlehawks opening game. We got Cardinals in town. There's a concert.
They had a concert at Chaffetz Arena, which is just a walk across. It's literally a walk across the interstate. So
yeah,
it becomes very important. The schedulers, and you know, I've always said I should have been a scheduler in my next life because to me it doesn't seem that hard. I think I could sit down and make out a schedule that didn't have the Battlehawks, the Cardinals, the soccer team all playing at the same time. It just seems like it shouldn't be that difficult, but it seems like every year that it is.
I get, you know, I hear both sides of it. You know, you get the side of where I think all three of us are at. We've football. We're just moving right into football. We got more football. We're not, you know, we're not having this big long break between the Super Bowl and the start of the UFL. Golf, you know, all these other things that are happening. You know, we're starting to get geared up for summer where baseball's kicking off. We're doing all that kind of stuff. If we go from football to football, we might keep a lot of those people all the way through before maybe they get into their golf seasons and their baseball. But then I've also heard the other side of the argument, and maybe this is true, probably not for us three, but maybe your casual fan is football fatigue. You know, I mean, look at us. I mean, I watch football nonstop from Thursday until Monday night. My wife consistently tells me I've got a problem because I'm watching games that.
Wait a minute. Like, we don't have the same wives, do we?
Well, no. I mean, she says to me, she goes, it's not even a Cyclone game or it's not even a Bears game or whatever. I'm like, I don't care. You know, so, I mean, maybe, but I still am a firm believer that if they would just start the season relatively close to the Super Bowl, we would at least be able to find out. Maybe football fatigue would be a thing, and it was a huge mistake, and we learned from it. I don't think it will be. I just don't.
The aggravating thing to me is, you guys know I run the United Football League fans group, and I even mentioned my poll results, in November at the Birmingham Stallions Fan Fest, and because I was going back and forth with it, with Moose Johnson about it, and I told him, I said, look, we had 400 and something people that responded. I said, you want to know the results? And he said, yeah, what were they? I said, 79%. 79% of the fans that go to the games, that watch the games on TV, said they would prefer for you guys to XFL start right after the Super Bowl.
Yeah. 2 weeks. Super Bowl, 2 weeks later, UFL.
And then they're advertising, football's not over. And look, I like their campaign. I like their marketing campaign. But me, I want to argue and say, well, hold on. Yeah, it is. For 6 weeks, it is. I mean, that's a long gap between. And I've been told verbatim, even this week, that a lot of people within the UFL know that when May hits and kids get out of school, people scatter because they've got vacations planned.
Listen,
and then again, I hate to beat this dead horse, but if you're in Birmingham, Memphis, Arlington, or Houston, it's hot as hell in May and June.
But listen, if this was 3-4 years ago, I wouldn't be able to watch a single UFL game from April 1st on. Because here we start travel baseball, and it's every weekend, all day long, Saturday and Sunday.
Travel baseball is huge in Alabama. Is huge, up there in Memphis where Bill Alexander that runs the yacht club. Zach had mentioned him earlier. He does a fantastic job up there trying to build that fan base. He's fantastic and spent a lot of his own money, mind you. And me and him have had many a conversation about this late start, from the heat to the travel ball to the the vacations. And I understand Fox. This to them is a TV show, and like I said verbatim to Moose, either it's going to be a TV show or it's going to be TV in attendance. You can't have both, because I literally told him verbatim, I know where you guys would like to be on attendance in all these cities. And I looked at him and I said, it's never going to happen with this late start. And I understand he's not the one making these decisions, but the people out in LA or whoever's making those decisions, like you guys mentioned, next year's the time to try this.
Well,
and I'm telling you, attendance will be better, and viewership. I don't think we're going to have a problem with viewership. I'm gonna tell you what, our viewership this year is going to kick last year's ass, and they were very, very happy about last year's viewership. I've heard that from everyone within the league.
What have I been giving you? What have I been sending you for the last 3 weeks, Brett? What I just been posting randomly, texting it to you, like, look at this, look at this, look at this. Temperatures.
Yeah.
People in the northern half of the country are prisoners in their house.
Yep.
In February and most of March.
Yep.
What a better way than north of the Mason-Dixon line to get people interested in football when they're in their houses channel surfing anyway because it's too damn cold to go outside. I mean, to me, it just makes sense. I mean, yeah, when you're saying, oh, it's 80 today down here, well, yeah, it's 5 degrees up here. You don't leave the house.
And I've always said too, we're all creatures of habit, and you're just used to certain times of the year or certain sports or whatever. When the Super Bowl's over with, if someone's not familiar with spring football, when the Super Bowl's over with, football leaves the mind, they turn the page, and all of a sudden they're watching basketball or they're you know, and same way in the spring, you know, when the weather starts getting nicer, they're used to jumping in the car and going to the park and going for a long walk or whatever. But you gotta market, you gotta advertise, you gotta keep pounding into their head that football is still here.
If the product is good enough and you hook them in February, even when it warms up in Iowa, you're still going to make time. Like you become a Memphis fan, it's on TV.
Right.
You're going to make time to watch Memphis just like you do for your college team or whatever. But if you kind of turn football off after the Super Bowl and you're flipping through channels, you're like, what is that? Some kind of replay? And they just keep going by. You know, it just doesn't register to them. But if you can really make it, if Fox can really make it a thing, Super Bowl, hey, football's not over. In 2 weeks, real football begins. Guys aren't going to be doing anything anyway. It's freezing cold here. We don't take strolls in Iowa in February.
Yeah.
You know,
I'm going to tell you, I've talked to Ed about this quite a bit here recently, and to the folks I've talked to, you know, this week that's I've got some of this information through. We're seeing a heck of a lot more average everyday people on Facebook and X bringing up the UFL. I can't tell you how many hundreds and hundreds of just random people are bringing. I think I'm gonna try it. I think I'm gonna watch it, and then you'll see, you know, whether it's Bleacher Report or NFL memes or NFL football. Well, what are you gonna do for the next 6-7 months? Football's over. And now when there's people pounding UFL, you're not getting those sarcastic comments. Oh, that's just minor league. Oh, that's just this. People are very responsive, and it's got me very pumped up to see what type of ratings we can have for this upcoming season, because from 2019 to now, I have not seen that until this year. So that's a real good sign.
And it doesn't matter. You can be a fan of any of the 8 teams in the league right now, because every week you're going to get to see every team on TV.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not a regional thing or whatever. You have the opportunity to see all 8 teams play every week. And so, I mean,
you can't do that in the NFL.
Yeah.
If you're an Atlanta Falcon fan in Iowa, forget it. You're going to see 3 games unless you have the Sunday ticket or something.
Unless
like
you
that,
open the pocketbook up.
That's right.
Yeah.
But the UFL, you're going to get to see every single game throughout the entire year. I mean, talk about if you're a new fan of the UFL, like I was a couple years ago. I mean, you know, I'm a fan of the Battlehawks because, you know, Ed's a Minnesota fan and we just don't see eye to eye NFL wise. And he's a Hawkeye fan, which is bleh. So we actually have something in common now that we can talk about in the spring and actually be pulling the rope in the same direction. But any fan can jump on and say, oh, what a time to be a homer. I'm a Birmingham Stallions fan. You know what I mean? Like whatever the case may be, they can do that.
But you're not pulling the wool over anybody's eyes, Eric, because let's face it, what was the number one reason why you become so interested in the Battlehawks from the get-go?
Rocco Beck's dad, Hakeem Butler, Mike Rose, Willie Harvey. And now,
what did we find out today?
And now,
let me put that up there. We find out today, press release from the UFL and the St. Louis Battlehawks. Just when you thought they didn't have enough Iowa State flavor, we get Seneca Wallace as our new quarterback coach. What do you say? He was in the NFL a good 10 years. I know he started out with Seattle.
Yep, he drafted by Seattle. He was with the Seahawks for 6 years. Then he went to the Browns, and then he finished his career up in Green Bay. But he spent 10 years primarily. I know he played a couple of those years. He did play in Seattle quite a few games. But he was a he's 5'11", 205 pounds, man. He wasn't a huge quarterback or anything like that, but he could move.
I find it interesting because if I remember Seneca Wallace's game, he was a run pass combination type quarterback. So, we want to believe that the starting quarterback for the St. Louis Battlehawks, is gonna
listen. It's a perfect hire. If Max Duggan's tools are his feet, and he's got a good arm. Inaccurate at times, but he's got a good arm.
But at the same respect, you look at the kind of quarterback that Manny Wilkins is, he could also be thrown in a Seneca Wallace type of a frame.
Yeah.
Of a run-throw quarterback. Yeah. So
the hire makes sense to me. With the type of quarterback Wallace was and the types of quarterbacks St. Louis has on their roster now, it makes total sense. Now, does it work out? I mean, we'll see. But it makes sense to me. It does. It makes complete sense to me.
So let's hit this area before we get into the next thing I want to talk about. Let's talk about
no, listen. John, come on. Look at this
what?
head.
Throw it up.
Jeez. So you're saying our quarterbacks are going to suck. Yeah.
Hey.
The Battlehawks tailgate, if there's one person I don't want to run into. Jeez. Tell you what.
Before we get on to the next subject, let's talk about this first, because this is another area that seems to get swept under the rug and nobody's found out anything concrete. Where is the UFL championship game going to be played?
Oh.
Brett, I know you've been tirelessly looking at someone to give you the answer on this. Have you found anything out?
Man, we're hearing a lot that and it makes a lot of sense that where Choctaw Stadium in Arlington is that's where the hub's located. Originally they had it set for DC, and I think there was a conflict with the soccer team up there. Whatever they call that sport, I don't know. But anyways, they couldn't get that resolved, and then the rumor spread that Birmingham was a possibility. But everything now, including home base, they've got the new whatever they call that in Arlington that they just opened the new facility a few weeks ago. I mean, it makes all the sense in the world to be there at Choctaw Stadium, and we're hearing that's a strong possibility at this point.
As I texted one of my insiders, I said an insider tells me Arlington gets the championship this year, and their response was, so I feel pretty confident about your insider being verified by my insider that the championship game is probably going to be in Arlington.
And you know what else makes perfect sense? Just like they have a Pro Bowl for the NFL, they could have a Pro Bowl for the UFL.
Oh.
And they could have it at Choctaw Stadium. And tell me that wouldn't get viewership if you had a Pro Bowl game from the 8 teams in the UFL. It could be the week after the season's over or whatever.
Them guys would play hard too.
3 weeks ago, when we asked Chuck Long that, he hadn't heard of it, but he thought it was a great idea. I mean, put some. There
would be a lot of scouts watching that game.
Put the best players on the field. Put an all-star coaching lineup from different teams selected, whatever, and let them play. I mean, that would be phenomenal.
Yeah.
I mean, oh, here you go, Brett. You like this? The script says Birmingham goes undefeated and lets Arlington win the championship.
Well, with it being in Dallas, I flew down there to Dallas and stayed in Arlington for town hall a few months before. I guess it was that summer before XFL 2023. Danny, Dwayne showed up. A lot of the coaches were there, and I had an absolute blast. You can literally in the sports bar across the street that we had the event at, you can see Jerry's World out the back window. And then across the street, probably about a 30-yard throw, is the front door to Choctaw Stadium. You've got a lot of new hotels and things. I think I stayed 2 miles down the road, maybe 3 miles down the road, in front of Six Flags at the hotel I stayed at. And, I'm going to do everything in my ability to get down there for the championship game if it is in Arlington this year. Thankfully, it'll be a night game, I'm sure, because mid-June and Arlington's probably going to be a little warm. But if we started the season right after the Super Bowl, it wouldn't be as warm. But what do I know?
So I would be remiss, since we're talking championship game, if I didn't bring up Vegas come out with the betting odds for the championship game this year. So let me pop that up on there. Vegas odds has Birmingham Stallions as the favorite to win yet another championship. Followed second by St. Louis, DC, and San Antonio tied for third. And then Michigan, Arlington, Memphis, and Houston in that order.
It would be almost worth throwing $20-$30 on both Memphis and Houston because their rosters look nothing like they did last year.
Well, if I remember last year, they had San Antonio in dead last, I believe. And if you'd have threw some money on that one, you'd have come damn close last year to raking in some big bucks.
Didn't we, if I remember correctly, didn't we have it Birmingham, Memphis, Houston, and Michigan on the USFL side? And didn't we have St. Louis, Arlington, DC, and San Antonio in that order?
We sure did. We had San Antonio and Michigan dead last. We did.
Dead last. Yep, we did. But see, that's the difficult thing, and we do our picks. When we do our picks and we kind of give our rundowns and everything, what do you do with Houston and Memphis?
KJ, well, I tell you what KJ is going to do. KJ's putting $50 on the Houston Roughnecks.
Might not be a bad idea.
And if he wins, he built a brand new house for his family.
I would double down and put 50 on Memphis as well because you just don't know. And Arlington, it does surprise me that Arlington is third from the bottom.
No, I agree. I agree with you there, Eric. That kind of stuck out to me as well.
Yeah,
wow.
It's Vegas. They obviously know more than we do. But the thing of it is, these numbers, what are they using? These rosters, we don't even know what the rosters are going to look like. Those things aren't.
Well, the core rosters for 6 of the teams are back now. Like you mentioned, Houston and Memphis. There's been so much turnover there, especially in Houston. My goodness. And then you got new coaching staff, totally new coaching staff in Memphis. Of course, you got the same coaches in Houston, except for the offensive line coach. It's a mystery with those two teams.
Like I said, I'm a St. Louis Battlehawks fan, but I'm not a homer. And I will say that it seems like every year they put St. Louis Battlehawks as one of the top 2 teams in the league. And I would have to say that we've underperformed because for as high a lofty goals as we have at the beginning of the season, we haven't delivered the last 2 years. So,
well, I would say the biggest thing is this, and I would say the biggest question mark for St. Louis going into this season is what's quarterback going to look like. Now, I'm high on Duggan. I really am. I watched him a lot at TCU. I've seen his tools. I think that he has the tools to be successful in a UFL setting. But again, it has to translate on the field. You would think that, having McCarron would have translated. But maybe
McCarron did a hell of a job. Now, he was on one leg.
Listen, last year was, I'm actually talking with McCarron the XFL season prior to. That was a disappointment. Last year, I think we all knew that McCarron was basically playing on one leg and just, trying the best that he could, but he just didn't look. He didn't look ready to go.
I actually think Dugan's going to be the starting quarterback. There's a lot, I've heard a lot of talk around here in St. Louis, and a lot of them seem to think Manny Wilkins is going to be the quarterback.
It's Duggan.
I'm just not seeing it because you look at the offensive coordinator that, with the Battlehawks getting a new offensive coordinator, he's been promoted from the wide receiver coach up to offensive coordinator. I got to think with the wide receiving core that we're going to have this year that they plan on hopefully not only having a lot of balls in the air, but also stretching the field and throwing some deep balls. Looking at Manny Wilkins' game last year, I didn't see it. He was a scrambling quarterback. I didn't see much ability in the passing game. I got to believe that that's why they brought Dugan in, and even the other quarterback they brought in,
Max Duggan,
has a pretty good pedigree. So
I agree with you guys. I think Manny Wilkins between those two kids, I think he's going to be third string. I really do.
Well, and KJ says it right here, and I agree with him. Stats. Wilkins just doesn't, hasn't impressed me.
No.
In the time that he's played, he just really hasn't impressed me to the point where we could say, yeah, okay, this is our guy. Where, Max Duggan, on the other hand, he's got some ability. And the thing that excites me about him
is pretty high.
Yeah, and the thing that excites me about him is his ability to run. His ability to scramble and get down the field when it's man coverage and his cornerbacks and linebackers, they get their backs to the quarterback and he takes off and run. That's just something that McCarron just didn't do a whole lot of. He was going to stand in there as long as he could. Where Duggan, he's got that ability, so that changes the game a little bit, changes preparation.
When you look at Manny Wilkins' situation last year. He came in during the game, and that's kind of a double-edged sword, right? Because when you come in during the game, it can be difficult to come in, but it can also be an advantage because the defense hasn't watched any film on you. So then fast forward to the next week, to me, it's a truer test of just how the quarterback's going to perform because now they've had a full week to game plan, full week to practice, get their timing done, with receivers that they probably don't throw as many balls when they're backup as they do when they're the starter. But then, of course, the defense gets a chance to take a look at them too. So the following week after Manny Wilkins took over the starting job when A.J. McCarron got hurt last year, the first week he was in as the full-time starter, I thought, here's where he needs to show what he can do.
Right.
And we just didn't. Our offense was very
stale,
very vanilla, very short,
very stale.
Wing passes, screens. There was nothing really.
All the weapons St. Louis had. Now keep in mind, Manny had the same weapons around him as AJ did. From Butler and all your wide receivers and the same offensive line that did a solid job last year. And he just, I hate to hate on any of these guys, because they're just trying to get a shot in the league, trying to get back to the league. But you fellas are right, man. Manny didn't look good.
Here's a question for you, Brett. I think I know the answer, but Brock wanted to know, previous comment, who's going to be the starting quarterback for Birmingham. I think we know the answer to that, but
it's going to be Magoo. Now, I'm going to tell you at times, and what I can compare spring football to the NFL, Matt Corral has NFL potential, but it's stability. The little inconsistencies that you see with a lot of these fellas is why they're in the position they're in, and they're not on an NFL squad. Do they have the ability? Yes. Do they have the ceiling? Yes. But the inconsistencies. Matt Corral, when he's on, he's a problem. And Martinez really, really had us behind the 8 ball against Michigan in Birmingham in the USFL championship game last year. Most people forget Matt Corral saved our butts. But now Magoo's special, but again, he is sat on the bench in Green Bay, and then the last season, or near this last season, they switched him to wide receiver. What is that going to do with his mechanics? But Magoo's a hell of a weapon back there.
Right.
And there's no doubt Jamar is going to be third. But, I mean, we won a championship our first year with Jamar. He's been with Coach, since they were together at Louisiana Tech. I don't think it matters necessarily who Birmingham has at quarterback. I'm more worried about our offensive and defensive line because we've had some turnover the last 2 years, and I'm worried that might catch up with us, although Moneyball and now his replacement have seemed to do a pretty good job filling those roles. In skill position, we're good. Running back, we're good. Quarterback, we're obviously good. But watch those lines of scrimmage this season. Michigan and St. Louis have damn good defensive lines. And don't forget what Wade has done in San Antonio. That was the most active defensive line in the league last year. I'm more worried, again, about our lines of scrimmage. But quarterback, we're going to be good. It'll more than likely it will be Magoo and Corral trading drives the first game or two, like Skip does every season, and then he's going to let them play for the quarterback one. He's not going to hand it to anyone.
Let's take our last break of the night, and when we come back, we'll have some more UFL talk. But let's go ahead, courtesy of the UFL, and get pumped up for the season. We'll be right back.
Hey, beautiful Sunday morning.
He was pumping up his beer snake friends back in the door.
All UFL for a reason.
So many personalities on the field and in the stands in this league.
We love the moments, the memories, the magic, the game. So let's get more. More action. More celebration. More unforgettable. More football. More of what you love.
This is more than a game. It's passion that fuels us. The action.
My goodness.
The excitement. The pride.
To the end zone. Touchdown.
Where stars emerge.
He got smoked.
Where legacies begin.
You're feeling awfully confident right now.
Where the future of football is taken to new heights.
Touchdown. Bam. He got whacked.
Get ready.
Just bad intentions.
Wow.
For more football this spring.
Playing with some swagger.
A new UFL season kicks off on March 28th.
And we are back.
I am ready. Ready. Can't get here fast enough.
So let's bring Brett back on. I thought he was chasing a wild pig or something down the street.
Actually, the first break was a Mountain Dew break. You know, kind of like Forrest Gump. But my thing is, I drank too many Mountain Dews today.
That's all you got to say about that.
That's all I got to say about that.
So
here's a quick one for you, Brett, before we get going again. One last
What's
question,
up, bro?
Brett. Who's the loudest SOB in the Stallions fan stable?
That's you, my brother, and I love you for it.
I think
Tell
I
you
knew
what,
the answer
Brock,
already.
if you get permission for my little fat rumpus to stand up with you, I'll stand up in our section this year, and hell, either I'll have somebody throwing me over the rail, or I'll have them jumping up and down and screaming. We had a pretty rowdy section last season. Thought there was going to be some fisticuffs in game one, and thankfully, me and Marty intervened and finally got security involved, and that said person was moved to a different section for the rest of the season that was trying to throw hands. But honestly, everyone, it is a fantastic atmosphere. To me, it's better than the college games. It's damn sure better than NFL games. You never see. 3 seasons? I've been to every game, but the playoff game last year against Michigan, you don't see any fights or any nonsense. That was just an off one incident that we got handled. It's a great family atmosphere. If you have not brought your kids, I mean, and for the money, and guys, you can't go and do anything now for a $20-$25 ticket. I mean,
speaking of tickets, single game tickets go on sale when?
27.
February 27th.
Right around the corner. When is that? That's on a Thursday. Is that next Thursday?
Next Thursday.
Next Thursday. Everyone has been jumping up and down wanting the single game tickets. It's going to be what? Basically exactly a month before the season. Get your tickets. You have got. I know some of you have obviously already watched on TV, but ask these fellas. It's a fun atmosphere.
And
It's lighthearted. It's not none of the nonsense you see at some of these NFL games.
Ed, I will be expecting you to get me at least 3 tickets for opening weekend. I'll Venmo you whatever it is. I want
You'll
good
have
seats.
to tell me whereabouts you want to sit. But
Well, I don't want crap seats. So
well, and here's the deal. I've been going out of my way to get flags from all the teams in the UFL. I've got flags. I've either got them in hand or they're on their way. I'm only missing the Houston Roughneck flag.
Oh, I can't believe you
I
can't
gotta
find that.
believe. I can't believe it. I go out and I look for a Houston Roughnecks flag. I want a red one. Well, the only one I could find that had their current logo right here, the only one I could find was a black flag, and it had a little logo right in the middle. And I'm like, that's not what I want. I want red.
Found
So,
it.
where'd you find that at? That's the old logo, right?
Now, hold on. That's why I was fixing to interrupt you, Ed. Look, there ain't nobody that you know, Ed, I can assure you, that's more rebellious than moi. That's a middle finger to the NFL and their pettiness. I would get the red flag with the old logo, and I would rock it.
Well, that's what I'm going to do then, because I got the Arlington Renegades flag, but you know me, I got the Bandit logo from 2020.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, as did I.
Yes, KJ, I did check eBay. The only one I could find with the current logo was black flag, but they did have a red flag with the old logo. So I'm afraid I'm going to have to go with the old logo, because between Eric and I, we are going to have an avenue of flags at our first tailgate in April.
We're going to have it nailed, man.
When St. Louis hosts San Antonio for that opening weekend home game on Sunday night, we are going to have the avenue of flags that not only has UFL, the bottom line, but it's going to have every flag in the league, and I'm going to be flying every flag in the league for the whole season.
Go ahead. A little birdie just keeps telling me Seattle's a done deal. I'd go ahead and get you that 9th flag.
Well, I did have that 9th flag, and I made the mistake of giving it back to my daughter. So I doubt that I'm ever going to see that one again. So.
We'll have to get in touch with the mayor on that 9th flag. I bet he got one laying around.
I got a DC flag. I got 2 different ones. I got the white one with the red logo, and I got a black one with the red logo. So I may switch that up when I fly that one. But
we're going to be set.
Yeah, I'm going to have to rent Eric's flagpoles for the season. So he brings them in. He may bring them down to St. Louis for the opening game, but he probably ain't going to be taking them home. So I'm going to have to get some. I'm going to have to get some of the other tailgaters to cooperate with me, so I have enough wheels. Because
at the opener last year, we had a real sweet setup, man. Real sweet setup. You could tell we were UFL fans by that setup.
Absolutely. So we're always trying to change things up with our show, and we got to thinking, what can we do a little bit different this year than last year, just because that's kind of the way we are. We've decided to go out to the different fan bases and get an affiliate that is going to come on our show. We have between all the cities. It'll probably be at least once every 2 weeks, once every 3 weeks that we'll have them on. But, of course, there's going to be the matchups of the week that we need to talk a little bit extra time about. And so I've already secured DC. I've got Arlington. I've got Houston. I've got San Antonio. I think I've got Memphis. I got Michigan locked in, Birmingham locked in, and, of course, St. Louis. So as soon as I turn Memphis from a maybe into I gotcha, we're going to be able to, I think, put together some pretty good shows that will be pretty entertaining to watch. So you got Birmingham locked down? Yeah, I do.
Is there even a?
There's some guy below. I was going to bring in a different guy to represent Birmingham.
I agree.
But I figured if I brought another guy in and he disagreed with you, that it might get off the rails pretty quick.
Ed, let's face it. If you brought another guy in with Birmingham, this is all he would do the whole show. Because Brett would have Birmingham covered. He'd just be sitting there going.
But I got some real good guys. I'm gonna wait until we actually get started, and it's probably going to be next week, the week after, because we'd like to get in and start breaking down the teams. We wanted to hold off just a little while because, with camp opening up soon, we didn't want to spend too much time tearing down rosters and only to find them changing every day and on us. So, once we start talking about the teams before the season starts, I'm going to bring all our affiliates on to talk shop, and I think it's going to be really an enjoyable segment. So.
Ed, you shouldn't have said anything. See, they're already trying to get information. Whoops, wrong one. Who's the DC guy? Who's the DC guy?
I gotta keep it under wraps.
Yep, you're just gonna have to stay tuned.
So what I want to know from Chris is he inquiring because he's a DC fan or because he wishes he would have been the guy?
Well, this is who he thinks it is. Cody question mark.
Hey, we can definitely bring Chris on too. I mean, we're probably gonna have 2 or 3 guys on with Michigan. So
here's an idea. So in the comment line, guys, tell me if this is a good idea or a bad idea. You know what I think we should do during the season? for, at least during the time we talk about different games, we should, for our loyal followers over here in the comment section, we should just see if those guys want to come on and just talk during their game.
Yeah. Just tell each other what they think's going to happen that weekend, and
either before the big game or after the game, or sometimes the game don't go your way. You don't necessarily want to come on, but
and then they disappear.
We could take it a step further and have them be involved in our pick segment.
Yeah,
but I don't want to start losing fans because they come. I mean, you got to. The reigning champ. I mean, do I need to scroll the results of the NFL college?
No, but what I think you should do is you should scroll the results of last year's UFL season, because we're in the UFL season now. Who is the reigning champ of the UFL picks, Ed? Who should be holding the big dog trophy for the UFL picks from last year?
I can tell you without a doubt that Eric won last year's pick segment for the UFL, but he definitely has an asterisk next to it.
Oh, erroneous on all counts.
Yep. I just like living in the past. It's time to live for the now.
Chris
brings up a good point.
Chris brings up a good point. I'm gonna have to sharpen my skills because I have a feeling I'm gonna be sending invites out once the season gets started, because we get somebody that's pretty passionate on the comment line. I might just have to bring them on the show.
Yeah. And we can do that.
And have your finger on the mute button, Ed.
Yeah. That's always a dice roll. We have certain standards we try to adhere to here. So,
and we'll start breaking down teams here in the next couple weeks. I'll bring on our affiliates, and you get a chance to get to know them and get to talk smack. And can't wait to get the season started.
Oh, man, it can't get here fast enough. It just absolutely cannot get here fast enough.
What are we, 44 days? Is that right? Or no?
Let's see.
I don't know. Big Rig. I'm used to looking on Facebook. Big Rig usually has the countdown going.
It's the 19th today, and the opener is what, the 28th?
Yep.
So we got 9 days, and it's about 37 days.
About
then,
37
right?
days. 37
35 days Friday. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep. It'll be go time. I mean, yeah.
So we had a lot of good stuff tonight. Again, we want to thank Zach Kilman for coming on the show with PFN. It's always nice to get other shows on here and get a little different perspective sometimes.
There you go, KJ. Every day, look at my story. Got the countdown updated daily, so you can always find it. But yeah,
I wanted to ask KJ, is he coming? KJ, are you coming to Birmingham again this year?
I had a chance to meet KJ in Memphis last year at the meet and greet for the Memphis Showboats, and so I've seen him on Facebook ever since. So it's going to be nice to hear from him this season, and he's pretty rabid Houston fan. So
Mike, make sure
some perspective.
Mike, make sure you stop by our Bottom Line tailgate. By the church, right, Ed?
You know what the burning question is. Because if you remember last year, if you was at any of my tailgates for the Bottom Line and St. Louis slot, you would know that I had the Beehawk beer that I was handing out pretty regular. I don't think there was anybody in the tailgate that was close to me that had to actually buy a beer.
No.
But
Wild Sun does us well.
The question will become is with our sponsor, Wild Sun Winery, will I have beer again this year? That is the question.
I think you will. At least for the opener.
Oh, I think for the opener, they would probably be well served to at least send a few cases with me.
Yeah, they need to send a bunch with you, and then I'll take any of the leftovers home.
Let me get this straight. They let you guys tailgate at the church?
Yeah, it's church lot.
Church lot.
Yeah, so you tailgate, and for us religious type, we go in and say a few prayers before we head into the dome, and it worked like a charm right up until we played San Antonio in the playoff game, and then for some reason that time it didn't work worth a damn.
Well,
kind of lost its juju, I guess.
If they're letting you guys tailgate in the parking lot, I guess he is a forgiving God.
So with that, you guys got anything else? Or are we ready to get out of here?
Any parting shots? Anything else, Brett? We got a lot of insider information tonight. The Raleigh thing had to shock some people.
It shocked me.
Well, but I would tell you that if I had $1 million and I had to put it on one side or the other, I would lean toward Columbus.
Yeah.
I would say Ohio. Seattle. I would say
Seattle for sure.
Seattle,
yeah. Seattle's a done deal.
I would do the Columbus is that when you see how rabid of a rivalry it is between Ohio State and Michigan, that Columbus Michigan Panther potential combo has to be pretty tasty, I would think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect size stadium, like I said.
That would definitely bleed over, I think, from the college season over to the UFL season.
I got to answer this question, Ed. Chris says, am I going to the DC game? Chris, here's a major problem. You probably won't see me on the bottom line from about mid-May on. I am a high school baseball coach, and my schedule gets really, really hectic. So the best that I can do during those periods is catch the games on TV and do my best.
We've got Eric. We've got Eric through. I think last year we had you through week 6.
Yeah, week 6 was about when I had to call it good. I'm going to try. The problem is our baseball schedule gets to where we are. We're about a game every night in high school. They've shortened our season up a little bit, so I'm just kind of stuck. But I'm going to do my best to get on as much as I possibly can.
So, Champ, to answer your question, here's Columbus, Ohio. Let me get your comment down so that you can see what the stadium is.
Champ, that is where the Columbus Crew play, I believe, professional soccer team there. It's a newer venue. Bill Alexander with the Yacht Club said he's been by there a couple times. It's perfect. It's perfect size. It's perfect location. But again, we've been hearing for quite a while now, probably 3, 4, 5 months. It was Seattle and Columbus / Canton. I'm told Canton's not in the cards whatsoever, but obviously Columbus is. So it's going to be between Columbus and Raleigh for the second expansion team in 2026 is what I'm told. And again, Seattle, unless, like I said, something really, really, really bad happens, and we don't promote that juju on this show. Our Dragons are going to be back, and don't have a clue what they're talking about calling the Ohio team. No, I don't.
Now,
not an idea.
Mike mentions a trip to DC. I can tell you that 2 years ago, Amanda and I jumped in the car and we drove to DC for the game. And I'll tell you, the drive out there is easy. The drive coming back sucks.
Oh,
something about, I don't care where you go on vacation, the drive there always seems like it takes 5 minutes.
Yep.
It's the drive back that just, you wonder if you're ever going to get back.
Yeah. Just like last
year. We drove out there we left about, God, I think it was early afternoon, mid-afternoon. We drove till like 11 o'clock at night. No problem. Stayed overnight, got up the next morning, drove into D.C., went to the game. Had a thought in our head that after the game was over on Sunday, since they played their games on Sunday, that we was going to jump back in the car, leave D.C., and drive to Pittsburgh before we called it a night. I can tell you we didn't even get out of D.C. until after 6 o'clock, and I guarantee you we were not going to make it to Pittsburgh. There's no way in hell we was making it to Pittsburgh. So our trip back was a lot longer than what it was going, but we had a hell of a time. DC
It was an ugly game, wasn't it, Ed? Wasn't that
DC
the
has
fight
a hell
game?
of a venue. That was the game 2 years ago where it come down to the very end, and then there was the big fight afterwards.
Yeah.
And we had 2 or 3 players get suspended for a game or two. But it was a hell of a venue for a game. I got on-field experience. That's where I met Kevin Atkins for the first time. He got inducted into the Eds U and the Lou Hall of Fame following week, which still sits back here. That's right, the U and the Lou Hall of Fame. Kevin Atkins, defensive lineman, Bulldog from Fresno State, still sits behind my backdrop, and that's where he will remain. It's only him and one other guy that ever made it to the U and the Lou Hall of Fame. So,
I still think that Mike Rose may deserve to be in the U and the Lou Hall of Fame, man. I know he's not a big man.
You don't understand what the U and the Lou means.
No, I do.
Those that don't understand what U and the Lou stands for, when you're a health nut, they always talk about the V. It's all about the V, right? Well, the U and the Lou stands for those guys. Sometimes that V can be under a lot of stress. And that V becomes a U. Okay, so for all the big boys that are balling, big men that ball, my Ed's U and the Lou is for those guys who have the U instead of the V.
Hey, does that mean I'm in the Hall of Fame?
The game that cinched it for Kevin Atkins was in Seattle. It was a Thursday night game, colder than hell. He picked up a fumble and he ran it in for a touchdown. And when he got in the end zone, he pulled his shirt up and he started working that belly. And he started working that belly for the crowd. I thought, there is my first inductee. Right?
That's my boy.
And so as you see in the picture back here, the first sweatshirt for the U and the Lou Hall of Fame was presented to Kevin Atkins outside of their hotel when they flew in for that first home game. So who will be the recipient this year? What defensive, one of the top contenders? I'll say it right now because he's been a favorite of mine he's been with the Battlehawks religiously since the very get-go in 2020. Mike Panasiuk, center for the Michigan State Spartans. And he's been playing center ever since for the Battlehawks. And he's a front runner. That's the very same game that clinched it for Kevin Atkins. He was also interviewed on the sideline. Mike Panasiuk was. He took his helmet off to be interviewed, and he just had the steam rolling off his bald head. And I got some outstanding pictures of Mike Panasiuk with the steam coming off his head. And so he's definitely one of the finalists. I could do PETA. I could do Travis Feeney. But those guys are speed rushers. They kind of got the V going on.
Yeah.
You got to kind of look defensive tackle. You got to kind of go defensive tackle or offensive
center.
That's right. To get that true U that you're looking for. So Well, more to talk about that later, but I want to thank everybody for joining tonight. Again, thank you to Zach Keelman with PFN for coming on and spending some time with us. The UFL is gearing up. Can't wait.
What is funny, Ed, is, prior to the show, we always do our, talk and kind of get our stuff together and everything. And we were sitting around thinking, man, how are we possibly going to talk, this time of year, 2 hours about what's going on in the UFL and the UFL itself. And, here we are. We didn't quite make the 2 hours, but, we did our best. And I think the information, I have to believe, Brett, that our insider information has got to be first of its kind.
Yeah.
And close.
And accurate on top of that.
And accurate on top of that, correct.
Now that kind of plays a part there.
Yeah. So stick around to the bottom line, all the UFL season. We got you covered all the way through.
And it was good to see so many viewers tonight watching our show. So again, thanks for watching.
We love all you guys. Even you, John.
Hey, we got team previews coming up the next few weeks, guys.
Yeah, we got team previews with our new affiliates. So don't miss it. We'll see you again next Wednesday. So long.
And that's the bottom line.